Hey friends, welcome to your week 16 foundations class. Today is going to be all about the hips. You will need a mat and then a long, stretchy, skinny exercise band or TheraBand and something secure or stable to secure it to. So either a really solid piece of furniture or I'm looping mine through a doorknob and then closing the door. This door doesn't close all the way, so I'm using the closet door and we'll turn when the time comes. All right, so grab whatever you need and we'll get started. So first we're gonna do a hip hinge with a band done two different ways. The first way is great if you have trouble feeling your glutes activated in a hip hinge. And just basic terminology, a hip hinge is where your knees are bent slightly and they stay at that angle. You kind of crease at your hips, send them back in space, and you feel your glutes stretch and then come back up, as opposed to a squat where your knees are bending a lot more. Okay, so go ahead and secure your band. And the first one we will do is we'll step into the band so that the main portion is at our hip crease facing forward. And let me just check if you can see at that angle. Gonna turn a little bit. Okay. So for this one, go ahead and place that band at your hip crease. Feet are hip width distance apart. And then you're gonna walk out until you feel some good tension. Obviously, if you're a little bit stronger, you walk out further. Or if you're just getting started with this, have barely any tension, more slack. Okay, so from here, tiny bend in the knees. Take a big breath in through your rib cage. Exhale. We brace, which we worked on last week, meaning we hug our side waist, our front and back body in without only cinching in at the belly button and creating a lower belly pooch. So try to control that pressure from the bottom up by initiating with the pelvic floor. So again, take a big breath in. Exhale, find your brace. And then we're gonna lean our chest forward and hip creases send back. At the bottom of your exhale, engage your glutes, drive them forward and press them into the band until you come back to standing. Inhale here. If that felt too easy, take a walk forward. Exhale, find your brace. Hinge back. And then stand back up. Good. Now, if one side of your pelvis, or rather your femur, so your leg bone, if one side is shifted more forward in your pelvis than another, it can be great to pull that back into the socket and do this exercise one leg at a time, which let's do. Let's step our right foot out so the band is just on our left leg. So now we'll create a little kickstand with our right toes behind us. Inhale. Exhale, we're just hinging at that one side. Feel the band, pulling your femur back in its socket. Feel that nice stretch in your glutes and come back to stand up. Good, inhale here. Exhale, move through your rep mindfully. Mind to muscle connection, no rush here. It can be helpful to take a video of yourself. Inhale. Exhale. Good. And this is great for anyone who lives in this posture where femurs are being shoved forward in the socket. It's nice to work on our posture too, but also just pulling back that leg bone. Let's switch so the right leg is in and the left leg is out. Left toes come to a kickstand. Inhale. Exhale, find your brace. Hinge back through the right leg. Stretch through your right glutes. And then drive them forward as you stand. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good, squeeze your glute to drive it forward. No need to shove it forward at the top of the rep, just a nice straight line will do. Last rep here. Good. So find what works for you there, and you can for sure do more reps. The other way to do this band hip hinge activation is if you feel that hip hinge primarily in your low back, these paraspinal muscles, instead of your glutes. We want to activate the front of the core to pull us out of this anterior pelvic tilt into a bit more of a neutral to posterior pelvic tilt. So now we will face the band. Walk back until you find tension. You're holding it kind of overhand in both hands. Now from here, find that slight bend in your knees. And then there's a couple of different ways you can pull the band down towards your thighs. You can either basically use your triceps and your lats and all your arms, or if you think about it, take a big breath in, exhale, use your core to draw that band down towards your thighs, and then work on your hip hinge. Come back to a stand. Inhale, tall posture. Find some slack in the band. Exhale, use your core and your lats to pull the band to your thighs. Hip hinge back. And this can be helpful to have a video so you can kind of see as soon as you start hinging and the point at where your belly dips down and your hips kind of sway back, this is where you've lost control. This is where the core isn't working and the lower back is overworking. So you can kind of video yourself and see, oh, that's the point at which I need to strengthen my reps. Inhale here. Exhale, engage your core and your lats, pull the band back, and then hip hinge. Hamstrings and glutes are working, core and lats are working. Let's do 2 more. Feel that you're putting even weight through both legs, that you're not shifting from one side. You might find that part of the rep is kind of juddery because you've probably compensated, keep going. Every time you've done a deadlift or a squat, this is definitely true for me, I've shifted weight to a certain side. So slowing it down, using this band tension, mindful reps with your breath will point out little discrepancies from side to side. So I know it's not the fun heavyweight stuff, but really good for you. Okay, we're gonna move on to a lunge stretch. So meet me on your mat, and we're gonna have our left foot in front and our right knee drop down. Let's find a 90-degree angle from the hips, knees, and ankles. So we're not doing our Anjaneyasana, our yoga lunge where we send the hips forward. We're gonna keep these nice right angles. Now think about kind of squeegeeing your legs together. So left heel draws back, right hip shoots forward, and we're in our nice tall posture. So from here, we're gonna stretch our right arm tall, bend into your right elbow and take a little tricep stretch. Maybe side bend over to the left. So this is actually the proper way to stretch your psoas muscle, is to add this little side bend, maybe a tiny rotation of your chest up towards the sky. Just kind of experiment, rock a little side to side, and take some deep breaths down into your pelvis. The other thing you can do is place the outside of your left hand on the inside of your left knee, stretch up through right fingertips, side bend to the left, and now use a little bit of that traction of left hand into left knee to then peel right shoulder open. Breathe into the right hip, slight engagement of the right glute. Good. Come back through center with your torso, stretch right fingertips tall, and from here, we're gonna lift up into a lunge, like a low lunge to a high lunge. Keep your legs basically at this angle. We're not gonna shift forward, and we're not gonna arch through our low back. So right fingertips reach up, take a breath in. Exhale, engage your right glute, press through your left heel, and come to stand. Press back through the top of the right thigh. Good, lower back down. If it felt like you were compensating by arching, what you can do is kind of take a little lean into the wind. So we're hinging our torso forward. We're not rounding, we're creating a nice lever. So if you're really, really tight in your hips, that's a good way to do it. I'm gonna turn this way for this next rep. We'll do the same thing. So inhale, stretch tall through right fingertips. Exhale, find your brace. Right glute engages, and then press down through left heel and the back of the right thigh to come to stand. Good. Lower back down. And one more. Inhale, right fingertips high. Exhale, find your brace. Right glute engages. And we come to stand. Maybe push up through the back of the right knee without arching the low back. Good. All right. Switch it out. Right leg in front, left leg behind. If you need an extra blanket underneath your knee, should have said that before, that can be helpful. Okay, tuck your back toes. And first, find that nice stacking of your pelvis and your knees. Again, we're not shifting forward, we're not dumping through the front of the hip. Draw your right heel back, and then firm your left hip forward. Inhale to stretch left fingertips high. Take a little tricep stretch, right hand to left elbow. Lean out and over to the right. Breathe into your left lung. Maybe turn your chest up a little bit. Good. Press your outside of your right hand into your right knee. Stretch up through left fingertips. Side bend over to the right. And now corkscrew your heart open. Open to the left. Breathe into the front of the left hip. And again, this has been shown to be the best way to actually target your psoas, your hip flexor muscle. Good. Couple more breaths here. Breath is expanding through the back body as well. Don't let it just go into your belly. Perfect. All right. So we'll do those reps where we lunge to stand. Stretch tall through your left fingertips. Breathe in. Exhale, core hugs in, left glute engages. And then we come to stand by pressing through our right heel and lengthening through the back of the left thigh. Again, if you find yourself shifting weight forward or arching through the low back, I would take a slight forward lean of your upper body on your pelvis. Lower back down. Inhale, stretch tall through left fingertips. Exhale, engage your core and your left glute. Come to stand. Breathe in. Breathe out to lower. One more time. Inhale, stretch tall. Exhale, find your brace, your engagement. Come to stand. Inhale, find that stretch. And exhale, lower back down. Okay, awesome work with that one. We will now move into a lovely hip internal rotation little exercise. Let me find my pelvis here. So, a lot of the hip movements we do, whether it's our yoga stretches or our clamshells, they are emphasizing our external rotators. So these muscles that come across the back of the pelvis, and when they contract, they pull your leg out and they shorten. These aren't bad in and of themselves, they just need to be balanced. So what can happen is we're so used to doing our Kegels and our clamshells, because that's what we've been told to do, that we can get tight pelvic floors and tight external rotators. What can counteract that is two things: stretching into internal rotation, which is where our knee goes in and our foot goes out, and lengthening our external rotators through a muscular contraction. So when a muscle shortens, that's called a concentric contraction. That's what we're doing when we're doing our clamshells for that muscle group back there. A really good way to find nice length in a muscle is to do an eccentric contraction. So if I'm holding a dumbbell, if I'm controlling it on the way down and my bicep is lengthening, that's an eccentric contraction. Super healthy to have a muscle be able to do both. So this exercise is going to work on eccentric contraction or lengthening while under controlled tension of our external rotators. And so I'm gonna pretend this is a femur bone, this is our leg bone. A lot of our leg exercises, if I'm doing this, not that that's an exercise we do, but I am moving my bone in the socket. So this is my femur moving in the acetabulum. This exercise will keep the femur still, and we're gonna move our pelvis on the femur, which is really healthy for it. Okay, so this is called a hip airplane. Come to stand on your right foot. Your left toes. If you need help with balance, by the way, grab a chair. That's a great idea here, especially if this is your first time doing this. Left toes are gonna come back as a kickstand. I'm actually gonna turn this way. Now, what we're gonna do is this leg, it doesn't shift forward, backward, really side to side. What we're doing instead is our pelvis is moving on our right femur, okay? So take an inhale. Left toes are kickstanding back. Exhale, hinge forward. And what we're gonna do is let our right hip bone drop down towards our left hip bone down towards our inner right thigh. Good, take a breath once you get there. This is kind of a funky motion. This is probably not one that you do. You might feel a big stretch on the outside of the right hip. That's amazing. Take a breath there. And then exhale, we'll work into concentric, so shortening of the external rotators as we lift our left hip up towards the sky and our pelvis opens to the left. Good. Exhale, lower back down. Our pelvis is moving on our right femur, so left hip bone shoots in towards right inner thigh. Take a breath once you get here. Feel that stretch. Exhale, find your brace. Push down through your right big toe and feel that engagement of the outer muscles that you just stretched. Good, we'll do one more. Come back through center. Exhale, left hip bone dips down towards right inner thigh. Breathe into that stretch, breathe into your pelvic floor. Exhale, engage your core, engage your hips to open your pelvis to the left. Good, okay, grab your chair like I said if you need it. We'll switch sides. So left foot is centered down. You feel the grounding through your big toe, your pinky toe, your heel. Right toes come to a kickstand. Take a breath in. Exhale to hinge. Now we're gonna drop our right hip bone down towards our left knee. But our left hip isn't really shifting. So from the side it looks like this. We're gonna exhale. Right hip bone towards left inner thigh. Breathe in once you find that stretch here. And exhale, push down into your left big toe, engage your core, and use those external hip rotators to open your pelvis to the right. Good. Exhale, pelvis moving on left femur, right hip bone down towards left knee. Inhale. Exhale to contract. Good. One more time. Right hip bone towards left knee. Once you find this little awkward pelvic position, take a breath in. And exhale to lift up and out of it. So you might feel your hips in a way you've never felt before because they're used to doing only that shortening action. Now we just increased the range of motion of that muscle probably by double because we're not used to going into that internal rotation or the movement of the pelvis on the femur. Let's advance it if you're ready, but go ahead and grab that chair if you need. So if you're feeling good with those, we're gonna just stand on one leg and do them. Starting on your right leg, breathe in, take a hinge forward, hug your core in, and then dip left hip bone towards right knee. Good, take a breath in, and we're gonna hold here. 3 deep breaths. Super stable. On your last exhale, go ahead and open up the pelvis to the left. Good, drop it back down. We're just gonna do one more rep. Left hip bone towards right inner thigh, 3 breaths. Breathe into your pelvic floor. On your last exhale, open your pelvis to the left. Good, okay, switch sides. Left foot is grounded. Take a breath to stand tall. Exhale, lift your right foot, hinge forward. Right hip bone comes down towards left knee. 3 breaths in that stretch. You can totally hold on to something for balance. Breathe into your pelvic floor and your back body. On your last exhale, push down through left big toe. Use those hip muscles to open your pelvis to the right. Good. Come back down. Find that dipping of your right hip. So our pelvis is rotating on our left femur. 3 breaths down here. Good. Exhale, open your pelvis. Beautiful. All right, shake out your legs and we will do one more exercise at the band. All right, so last thing today, we're gonna do a lunge with a press. If you have sensitive knees, I would bring your mat over or have a little blanket underneath your knee. So whichever leg is gonna be in front, the band will come from the opposite direction. So I'm gonna start with my left leg in front. The band is coming from the right side. You're gonna hold it in your hands, and as we lunge down, so take a deep breath in, find your railroad track stance of your legs. So instead of a tightrope, take it out a little bit wider. Okay, take an inhale. Exhale, find your brace. Lower ribs draw in, hug that pressure from the pelvic floor up through the core, and we lower into our lunge. As we get to the bottom, we press out with our hands. So that band is gonna make us want to move over towards the right. This is a lot going on. Your left obliques have to engage quite a bit to draw you back towards center. And throughout this exercise, push forward with your pinkies, but have a nice light grip on the band. So I don't want to be super tense through your shoulders and your jaw, okay? Inhale, come to stand. Exhale, draw everything in, lower down, so right knee hovers off the mat, press out. Inhale, bring it back up and stand. Exhale, everything engages, go to the bottom of your lunge. Your knee can drop if you need a modification. Press out through your pinkies. Inhale, elbows back to side. Stand back up. We'll do 2 more, breathe in. Exhale, find your brace, lower down into your lunge. Press out through your pinkies, strong through your core. Inhale, elbows back to sides, come to stand. Inhale, exhale, lunge, press. Inhale as you return back to center and stand. I'm gonna turn the other way. I don't know if that view is necessarily gonna work, but this time, right leg is in front. The band is coming out from the left side. All right, so find your railroad split stance here. Find that light grip of the band so you can press out through your pinkies, but you're not holding on for dear life. Inhale, find your posture. Exhale, lower down into your lunge until left knee hovers. Press out. Inhale, elbows back to sides. Come to stand. You can always modify by dropping the left knee down. Take a breath in. Exhale. Find that brace. Lower down. Press out. Inhale. Stand. Take a breath in. Exhale, brace. Lunge. Press. Breathe in to stand. 3 more. Keep an eye on your pelvis. Make sure your knees and hips are at that nice 90-degree angle. We're not opening our pelvis one side to the other. Maybe think about your obliques on this last rep, really using them to have your sternum face forward. Breathe in. Exhale to lower. Press, center, and stand. Guys, I'm sweating. Those are no joke. There's a lot of hip work, and I don't have AC, so hopefully that was something different. I definitely think those hip airplanes are a different type of muscle stretch and muscle contraction, which I really like. And the hip flexor stretch, the psoas stretch, adding that side bend and chest rotation up and taking some really deep breaths there, I found helped a lot. I no longer really emphasize doing a ton of like splits prep or lunge, really deep lunges in my yoga practice, because I don't think it's necessarily a requirement to be able to do the splits, to have super open hamstrings and hip flexors. I think a nice balanced body is what is going to keep you healthiest and happiest. So that to me is balancing strength and mobility and flexibility, where you're kind of controlling the ranges of motion your body goes into and you're keeping strength along the way. So hopefully those were helpful for you. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.